Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Oh, I gotta get situated. I'm Kris. This is part 3, I guess. Fall of Jerusalem and the Battle of, well, that's a word I ain't pronouncing. 637. I ain't pronouncing it because I ain't gonna say it right, and then people are gonna laugh at me and you're gonna be like, oh. So I just quickly wanted to point out something that was just given to me. Who doesn't want dragon meat in a can? Am I right? And then so it's got the parts listed, and I know you really can't read them, but it's got the damn it, it's got the face. That's brisket. That's belly of the beast. Those are talons. This is a pointy thing. Sorry. Over here is stew bits. This right here is called kick parts. And then you got the butt, and then you got the sirloin furnace. So, and then that's death from above. There's I can't open it. I ain't got no fingernails. I ain't got no fingy nails. Oh, damn it. Well, let's just pretend. It's just basically a little piece of, well, I don't know why a straw would open it. I'm a goddamn fool. We're opening it now. You're going to stick through this. I'm going to put a time stamp. You can fast forward to the time right here for the video. There ain't a timestamp there. Ooh, that's the freshness. That's so so of all the parts I've been given the head. Severed neck there. I like the X's on the eyes, in case you thought maybe it was living. Just his tongue's out just to show you that he is dead. Can't have a tongue out without it being dead, am I right? Oh, jeez. Okay. Oh, this is flammable. It's good if I want to cook it. Just go ahead and put him right back there like he was. All right. You've all suffered through that. I have my the end of my rum and coke. Rum and coke? It's rum and... Wow. It's sugar-free Mountain Dew. That's not even... I'm just going to start the video now.
While the victorious Muslim army enjoyed the fruits of a hard-won victory at Ctesiphon, in Mesopotamia, the army, to which Khalid ibn al-Walid was attached, continued its conquest of Byzantium.
Why is that here? Can you go away? Really? Well, we're gonna do it. We're going for it. Sorry.
Byzantine lands north.
No, we're not. I'm fucking annoyed. Yeah. Too lazy. I'll get
towards
it
the very heart of Heraclius' empire. Welcome to our second video in the second season, covering the Muslim conquests of the 7th century and their continuation with the battles of Jerusalem, Hazir and Jalula. Shout out to Magellan TV for sponsoring this video. If you're a history fan, you should be signed up to Magellan TV, a new type of documentary streaming membership. The scant few of Heraclius' warriors who survived Abu Ubaidah and...
Okay.
We last left the Muslim-Syrian campaign in the aftermath of Abu Ubaidah and Khalid ibn al-Walid's triumph over the Romans at Yarmouk. Exhausted from that long 6-day struggle, the Muslims remained camped around Jabiyah for a month, collecting the bounties of war and recuperating their strength. The scant few of Heraclius' warriors who survived the massacre fled north to the relative safety of northern Syria, leaving Palestine at the mercy of the Islamic forces. Without an army to check his progress, Abu Ubaidah assembled his generals in October 636 to decide how best to exploit the situation. Some argued for an attack on the strategic linchpin of Caesarea, a coastal fortress whose garrison could be indefinitely reprovisioned by the Roman navy if besieged, but which could also serve as a potential beachhead for a counterattack if not taken. If the Muslims got it, the campaign for Palestine would be over. However, other commanders pointed inland towards a much simpler and symbolically enticing target, Jerusalem. Not only could this isolated city be strangled into submission with relative ease, but the loss of their holiest place would be a crushing blow to Roman Christian morale. Unable to come to a decision, Abu Ubaidah sent a message to Caliph Umar asking his opinion. The reply was simple: take Jerusalem. So Abu Ubaidah led the Muslim army straight at the holy city.
That's my man.
Realizing what was about to happen, Jerusalem's patriarch Sophronius secretly sent the holiest Christian relics, including the True Cross, off to Constantinople by sea.
The True Cross. Oh, is that the Jesus cross? Guessing.
The raiding Arab mobile guard under Khalid reached Jerusalem.
Or the Jesus cross to my Mexican watchers. What?
Sometime in November, just before the rest of the army, and this prompted the Roman garrison to pull back inside. Discovering to their chagrin that its fortifications had been reinforced after Yarmouk in anticipation of just such a siege, the 5 commanders, Abu Ubaidah, Khalid, Yazid, Amr and Shirabil, nevertheless blocked off all passage in and out of Jerusalem. This state of affairs continued for 4 months in a relatively uneventful siege, of which few details survive. The situation in the city must have become unbearable though, because in March 637, Sophronius offered to surrender Jerusalem if Umar himself came and personally signed the treaty with him. When these terms became known, Shirabil suggested that Khalid, whose appearance was relatively similar to that of the Caliph, should impersonate their leader and secure a quick surrender. However, this attempt at deception failed the next morning because Khalid was far too well known in the Levant by this point. When it did, Abu Ubaidah instead dispatched a message to Medina explaining the situation.
I mean, if Khalid shows up, I would have probably just been like, oh, you're here? Yeah, I'll sign. Let's just, yeah, we're cool. Let's just agree that this war's over.
A few weeks later, having made the long journey from Arabia, Caliph Umar arrived near Jerusalem. Khalid and Yazid greeted him, both dressed in fine silk clothing, but this annoyed Umar, a firm enemy of luxury and a proponent of the Spartan way of life. Seeing his generals in such a state of apparent excess, the Caliph picked up some pebbles and threw them at the 2 stunned men, shouting, "Shame on you that you greet me in this fashion. It is only in the last 2 years that you have eaten your fill." The Caliph's rage was quickly sated when Khalid and Shirabil revealed that they were in fact still carrying armor and weapons beneath their fine outer garments. Drama aside, he quickly got down to business and negotiated with Sophronius, with the result that Jerusalem was opened to the Muslims by late April. It is said that the pact between Umar and Sophronius recognized Christians as a protected people with the right to practice their own religion in return for the jizya, but this covenant of Umar is probably apocryphal. Now that the holy city of
I mean, look, it's better to give. How am I trying to say this? You've negotiated, you've taken Jerusalem. If you're trying to avoid a war, then give up something and to allow them to stay and practice your religion and everything. But, just kind of know that this is no longer your place. This is ours. We're allowing you to stay here. If you don't like that, you have a whole world you can journey to. So, well, not a whole world. You have a whole world that you know of in 637 to travel to. So, the options are you can just pay a tax, stay here, do your thing, live your life, no changes, you're just paying a tax, or we'll kill you. Yeah, so how much was that tax again?
Christendom was in his hands. The Caliph conferred with his commanders and then went back to Arabia. The Syrian army then split into thirds, with Ammar and Shirabil moving to reoccupy and secure Palestine, Yazid besieging Caesarea, while Khalid and Abu Ubaidah moved to begin the conquest of northern Syria. With the
are Khalid and I forgot his name, Abba, not as good as Khalid. That's his name. Abba not as good as Khalid. Are these two like 1 and 2 or 1 and 2, however you want to phrase it, in terms of the military generals? I would guess. If they're, I don't know how I'm trying to phrase things. I've been drinking too goddamn much. It's 5:46 p.m. Goddamn.
Situation in the region seemingly hopeless after the Yarmouk disaster, Emperor Heraclius sailed from Antioch and withdrew back into Anatolia, intent on consolidating Byzantine military strength and protecting the remainder of his empire. Once the ship departed, it is said that Heraclius said the words, "Farewell, a long farewell to Syria, my fair province. You are in enemies now. Peace be with you, O Syria, what a beautiful land you will be for the enemy's hands." Despite this
Do mushrooms freak you out? These won't. But it's no wonder shrooms get a bad rap. Word has it.
Bye.
Despite this effective abandonment, some of the Roman garrisons were still determined to resist the Arab advance. From Jerusalem, a 17,000-strong force under Khalid and Abu Ubaidah marched unopposed to Damascus and then even further north to Emesa. From there, Khalid was dispatched with his elite mobile guard to Chalcis, modern Kinisrin, but was intercepted on a plain at nearby Hazir by 7,000 men under the town's Roman commander, Menes. He deployed his limited forces in 3 divisions, a center and 2 wings, placing himself at the forefront. Khalid charged with his Arab cavalry, and soon enough a fearsome mounted engagement was underway. After only a short amount of time, however, Menas was slain amid heavy fighting, and his troops, who loved their general, went wild with fury. Despite their numerical inferiority, the Roman troops matched the Muslims pound for pound in the head-on clash, pushing them back a little, but committing themselves too much. To exploit the opportunity, Khalid detached a unit of cavalry from one of his wings and led it around the Byzantine line, attacking his enemy from the rear and defeating them. It is said that not a single Roman survived this engagement at Hazir.
Damn.
Following this victory, in June 637, Khalid moved on Chalcis itself, where the
Your general was killed. Like you love that man. And you're willing to fight and die for him. I mean, that is a sign of respect for that guy. I think they pushed too much, you know what I mean? Like they separated too much. They should have just stayed together and kept fighting, even though they would have eventually lost. They were going against Khalid. I mean, what do you want?
garrison was stubbornly fortified in the town's citadel. Rather than launching an assault, the Muslim general merely demanded those inside and the defenders surrender, which they did soon after. Abu Ubaidah rejoined Khalid at this point, and the pair moved north to Aleppo, where they defeated a minor Byzantine force commanded by Joachim in a pitched battle outside the city. Much like at Chalkis, the Romans retreated into their fortifications, a hilltop citadel outside Aleppo itself. Joachim sallied out a few times in an attempt to break the siege, but failed, and by October 637 the city was in Arab hands. The greatest Roman city in Syria, Antioch, was now close. To precipitate an attack on it, Ubaidah sent a strike force to deal with the garrison at Azaz in the north, so that no Roman units could hit them from the flank as they were taking Antioch. This was done swiftly, and when the strike force returned, Ubaidah's advance on Antioch began. When the Muslim army was 12 miles from one of the urban jewels of the Byzantine Empire, they were met at an iron bridge over the Orontes River by a powerful Roman army who had come from Antioch. Although the details of this Battle of the Iron Bridge are also unknown, it is clear that Khalid used his mobile guard to superb effect, crushing the Romans in a battle whose casualties were only exceeded by Ajnadayn and Yarmouk.
I have to say this again, and I apologize. Khalid is so good. He just... On this, since I've been on my channel, and I'm going to start talking, so if you don't want to hear it, just fast forward to this point right here. There was nothing there. You're going to listen, or you're just going to fast forward on your own. I've went over so many different Belisarius, Hannibal, Napoleon, Oudinot, obviously the greatest of all of them. Anyone who gets shot 36 times is just the man in my book. But like, there are so many people that obviously I knew Napoleon. I'd never heard of Belisarius. Caesar, yes. And Khalid, never heard of. There's just so many people I've never heard of that you find out about, and you're like, man. And someone like him, so many of them would have been, I think, good in any time period. Not just, these were minds that were just trained for war. And even though war in his time is not war in our time, doesn't mean he couldn't, if he was born today, doesn't mean he couldn't have adapted. It would be a completely different feel. And there are so many people that I've looked at, and I think they were just born for this. And it's just so impressive because I don't know if you guys know this, but I'm a big fan of Khalid. And a big fan of a lot of them that I've went over, and just, I think that they're just impressive. So even someone like Tecumseh, the Native American. I understand why he fought. He was a good warrior. He just was it was a bad time. But he could have been a great human, had he won and been able to stop American expansion. It's hard to tell what the U.S. would look like now, because he was a very good person, and I think that Khalid and Khalid, I think I'm butchering the name because I've been drinking. Belisarius, all these people were they were good, and they were good for their country. They were good for war. He's just an impressive person. I just had to pause it and say that because all due respect to that man, because that's all I really have. I just had to pause it and say that. That was my rant. and I do apologize for people who hate listening to me talk. I hate it too. But I just had to say that.
In the wake of thousands of fleeing enemy soldiers, the Muslims approached and besieged Antioch. But taking the illustrious capital of the East was an anticlimax. Only a few days into Abu Ubaida's investment, October 30th, the weakened city surrendered on terms and its defenders were permitted to withdraw north unmolested. Having cleaved the Eastern Roman Empire into two disconnected pieces, Abu Ubaidah dispatched Khalid on a daring cavalry raid across the Taurus Mountains and into the Tarsus region, while the Supreme Commander himself thrust south down the Mediterranean coast.
So he's number one, and that's his, number two.
Capturing seaports such as Laodicea, Gibala, Antarados and Tripoli, making it impossible for Emperor Heraclius to use the superior Roman navy to bring armies into the Levant. Although fighting in the area was far from over, by late 637, most generals of the Syrian campaign settled down to rule their respective regions as governors. At Hulwan, Yazdegerd III was still eager to salvage his crumbling empire after the loss of Ctesiphon. To do this, he ordered the main Persian army under Miran and Kurizad to halt their retreat and turn to face the invaders near Jalula. Armies attempting to push north past the riverside town were forced to march through a narrow gap between the Tigris's Diyala tributary to the west side and an area of barely passable broken ground to the east. If Miran's 20,000 to 30,000 could hold this position, the remainder of northern Suwad and Sassanid territory east of the Zagros Mountains would be unassailable. With the aim of converting Jalula into an impenetrable fortress able to resist any enemy thrust, Miran immediately started digging in. A ditch was excavated 3 miles to the south, which connected the broken ground to the river, blocking the gap. Behind this trench were a number of other fortifications, artillery, and thousands of Persian archers. While in
Stupid question, has nothing to do with the video. What the hell are these things called? And what would they have made them at on... let me try that again. I ain't got no more drink. I done drank all my drinks. Would these be made out of metal or wood? Would they even be made of... Would you even want to make one out of wood? If you made a bunch of these out of wood and I came over to your house, I'd laugh at you. No offense. I'd be disappointed that you knew how to make them and I didn't, but I would still laugh at you. But I'd laugh at you because I was mad that I didn't know how to make them. I think that says more about me than anything about you. Why am I tracing this thing with my mouse? I don't know. Look at that. It's amazing. Okay, so what's it called? Hulk Hogan. Man, I've been drinking.
Front were placed an array of wooden anti-cavalry caltrops. Recruits were mustered, armed and trained from the local area, and provisions were gathered from around the nearby countryside. Jalula was to be a crucial battle. The moment Sassanid defensive works began around Jalula, word reached Sa'd in Ctesiphon that this was happening. As the Muslim general was just as keen to seize the fertile northern Suwad as his Persian enemies were to keep a hold of it, and wanting to push the defensive frontier eastward, Sa'd sent his nephew, Hashim bin Utbah, with 12,000 troops to reduce the Persian position. In order to prevent reinforcement or retreat, Sa'd also dispatched 5,000 men to deal with Persian governor Intak's garrison at Mosul. After several attempts at taking that city by storm, Muslim spies managed to secure the defection of a Christian Arab contingent in a betrayal which led to the fall of Mosul. In the main force heading for Jalula during March 637, Hashim brought with him many companions of Muhammad, as well as the ever-ferocious Kaka ibn Amr. Also in the Muslim ranks were several thousand Persian troops, along with Sassanid officers who had joined them after Ctesiphon. When the Arabs and their Persian units approached the Jalula Gap after a day's march from the former Sassanid capital, Hashim constructed his camp and deployed along the southern arc of Miran's protective trench, unwilling to launch an outright assault against it. So the situation remained in this manner for many months, during which reinforcements, provision and money were channeled into the fortified city from Hulwan, where Emperor Yazdegerd was continuously rallying additional forces.
Excuse me, what kind of car do you drive?
It's none of your business.
2014 Corolla. Why?
And how much do you pay for car insurance each month?
I don't know. I have to look it up. I'm sorry.
You froze, dude.
How much I pay.
Shh, shh, shut your face. Shut your face. No one cares. Video.
Aware that his situation was only going to worsen with time, Hashim ordered several attempts at storming the fortified ditch. Despite the
Stupid question. What is over here and over here? I mean, I'm over here. Hello. But I wasn't there at the time. But what's all over here? And what's to stop them from going around? I'm going to guess maybe mountains. And so this is the only real viable way of attacking is through here. I mean, because there's a road there, I guess. Well, why not get on this road over here? I don't know, Chris. Why are you asking me? I don't know. Chris, you're talking to yourself. Start the video. Shut up.
disconcerting failure of Miran's wooden caltrops to stop Arab cavalry.
Wooden what? Wooden... Did he say caltrops? I see him. Oh, now I want one. I want to make one. Stick it in the middle of a room. This has nothing to do with the video. Sorry.
Persian missile troops managed to overwhelm and repel these attacks. Afterwards, the Sassanids replaced the wooden obstacles with more effective iron ones. Demoralized due to their lack of success in breaking the Persian line, the Muslims ceased offensive actions for a while, and that...
Why replace the wooden ones with iron ones? Why not put iron ones, you know, to kind of back it up, just to put more of a barrier? Just a thought.
Gave Miran an opportunity of his own. Utilizing the constant steady stream of reinforcements coming his way, the Persian general began launching sorties against Hashim's positions, inflicting losses and gaining confidence as he did. Although the Muslim army was easily able to fight up to 80 of these attacks off when they arrived and pushed Miran back into his fortifications repeatedly, there was still no way to break the deadlock. With little other option, Hashim sent word back to Ctesiphon that he required reinforcements. Sa'd initially sent 600 infantry and 400 cavalry to bolster the army at Jalula, but this total was barely enough to replace the losses suffered during 8 months of battle and night siege. So
8 months of battle? Oh my goodness. Man, you could go to war back in those days as a 14-year-old and just do one tour, come back and you're 49. Damn! An 8-month battle? Wow. How many of you would have participated in this and you would have been looking down at your watch? I've been here for 7 hours and 9 months. That's a long-ass time.
Soon after, another 500 cavalry reinforcements were dispatched, which included many competent Arab tribal chiefs who had fought against the Caliphate in the Ridda Wars. The Persians, having been themselves reinforced by Yazdegerd and emboldened by Muslim inability to break their defences, now decided to go on the attack before Hashim was further reinforced.
We're rooting for this guy right
Miran
there.
also realised that simply waiting wasn't going to win him the battle. The only way to make the Muslim invaders leave was to inflict a decisive defeat on them. Deployment for an assault began with haste. Such Sassanid preparations for a major attack could not be concealed, and it immediately attracted Hashim's attention. This state of affairs was, however, also favourable to the Muslims, who were utterly sick and tired of sitting helplessly outside Miran's fortifications. So, to facilitate a pitched battle, Hashim withdrew his forces a short distance to the south, and allowed his Persian adversaries to cross their own entrenchments, thereafter arraying for battle opposite. The actual order of battle at Jalula is obscure to us, but we do know that two former apostate chiefs, Amr bin Madi Karib of the Zubayd family and Taleha bin Kalewad of the Banu Asad, were given command of the cavalry and infantry respectively.
I'm just going to guess that they withdrew to lure these, and I'm going to call it preemptively, dummies, away from their fortification. That's what, I mean, it has to be that way, right? That's my guess.
Now that the Persian rear was anchored by their own ditch, the only direction to move was forwards, and that is just what happened. At Miran's command, the Battle of Jalula proper began with a full-scale Sassanid attack along the entire front, with archers and javelineers loosing their projectiles before melee troops made contact. The charge struck with devastating impact, but Hashim's Muslims nevertheless resisted stalwartly for a time.
Can I just wanted to randomly ask a question. Oh, sorry. Imagine me, you, and you. We're all standing together. Right? We're all standing together. We're playing like thumb war, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, I declare thumb war. And our leader says, get ready. And we're just like, oh, get ready for what? And then all of a sudden, I'm having a thumb war with you, right? And you're like, oh, I think I'm going to win. And all of a sudden, I'm like, oh, and I get hit in the neck with an arrow, and then like in the eye, and then the tits. And I just like, oh, you win. And I fall down and I die. Just imagine how weird that's got to be, where you're like, oh, man. Oh, they're shooting arrows. Just like out of the blue, you're just hanging around, right? You're thinking about, oh, you know, when this 3-year siege is over, I'm going to go hang out at Ralph's. And then all of a sudden, would you two stop wherever the hell you are? And then all of a sudden you got arrows flying at you. That'd suck. What if you're the first? What if you're standing there and the guy next to you gets hit with like 6 arrows and he falls down and dies? What a dick. They really hated that guy, didn't they? Alcohol makes me funny.
Refusing to give an inch of ground. This didn't last long, however, as the ferocious assault, fired up by constant shouts swearing vengeance for Qadisiyah and Ctesiphon, began punching small holes in various places along the Muslim line. These successful thrusts endangered the integrity of the entire Muslim front, and it was immediately clear to Hashim that the danger of total collapse was very real and perhaps imminent. To resolve the problem, Sa'd's nephew rode along his buckling line to speak inspirationally to those units which were weakening, proclaiming that if they persisted, this was the last battle they would have to fight. The present clash between Sassanid and Muslim troops became increasingly brutal, as both sides' missile units ran out of javelins and arrows, instead taking up melee weapons and charging into the slog themselves.
Jesus.
Both armies had units battered into non-functionality by the extended fighting, but when this happened, the Persians were able to replace them, while Hashim had no such luxury. Because of this numerical disadvantage, one Islamic unit gave way and routed to the rear at about noon, leaving a potentially fatal vacuum in the Muslim line. However, either because Miran did not notice the opportunity, or due to his soldiers' exhaustion, an attack on the position was not ordered, and Hashim scraped together some men to fill the position. Witnessing the flight of this unit, Kaka rode back and restored order, returning it to the battle. Almost unbearable desert heat and the brutal fighting led to the Persians halting their offensive just after this, and both sides disengaged. After a short rest, Miran planned to keep piling on the pressure, but Hashim had other plans. As his enemy had before, the Muslim general ordered his warriors to charge across the entire front, spoiling Mihran's assault and initiating another grueling clash which lasted for over an hour without a decisive moment. Just before sunset, however, the wind whipped up and a storm rolled in from the south, a weather phenomenon which affected the Persians more than the hardy desert nomads. As the wind was now at the Muslims' back, granting them momentum in the advance, Hashim signalled Kaka ibn Amr to embark on a maneuver they had prepared beforehand. While his general kept Mihran occupied in the front, the buccaneering Arab warrior took a regiment away from the left wing unnoticed and managed to circle around the Persian rear. Instead of attacking immediately, Kaka left most of his outflanking force in a sheltered area to stop them being seen, then took a few outriders and a man with an incredibly strong voice close to the main crossing point over the Persian trench. Following the call, multiple things happened at once. First, the Muslim army, deceived by their own into believing that their general had reached the trench alone, attacked with renewed vigour and peak morale. At the same time, worried that large numbers of Muslims were now behind them, individual Sassanid units who did not have a strategic overview of the field panicked, lost cohesion, but did not break. The coup de grace was administered by Kaka himself, whose flanking force charged upon hearing the shout, whirling into Mihran's flank like a thunderbolt. At the impact, the Sassanid line was rolled up before being encircled entirely. Still, however, the Persian forces were stalwart, refusing to collapse utterly despite their unwinnable situation. Muslim forces continued attacking the encircled but still resistant forces of Mihran all day, losing troops as they did. However, the Sassanid soldiers were only human. At sunset, as the sky began to darken, everything fell apart and the Persians routed, only to be cut down as they fled. A great mass of them, driven into the ditch and their own iron stakes by Hashim's army, perished terribly. Up to half of the Sassanid army perished at Jalula, while the remainder, including the town garrison, fled in the direction of Hulwan, and the town itself fell in December 637. Shortly after, Kaka rode in pursuit of the retreating enemy and defeated them, first at Kenikin, before besieging and capturing Hulwan in January 638.
Any clue as to how many people died in that battle? Because that seems like that was one of the most brutal fights that I've probably seen so far.
Yazdegerd retreated beyond the Zagros. When Kaka subsequently wrote to the Caliph asking permission to operate deeper in Persia, Umar would have absolutely none of it. Forbidding the operation, he replied, "I wish that between the Suwad and the hills were a wall which would prevent them from getting to us and prevent us from getting to them. The fertile Suwad is sufficient for us, and I prefer the safety of the Muslims to the spoils of war." Expansion to the east was halted, but the Muslims were now looking towards the jewel in the Roman imperial crown, Egypt. Our series will cover the campaign in Egypt next, so make sure you are subscribed.
Yeah, that was a brutal fight. Wow. They should have never left the city. They should have stayed there. They had everything fortified. Everything was working for them. And that's what happens. You get ego involved and people think, oh, look, we repelled them a couple times. Oh, they're running away. Let's go after them. No, you fool. It's like you have the high ground. Don't give it up. Anyways, enough of all this talking. See, that was silence. I'm going to end this video. But before I do, I would like to give you a phrase that hopefully has never been heard before, so you can share it with people who like you, love you, and make them hate you. I think, maybe. I don't have anything. Yeah. Give me a second. I gotta get a good stretch in. Oh, that felt good. How are you? That's great. I gotta use the bathroom. I gotta tinkle. All right. I gotta say a phrase right now. Do you have anything you want me to say? Nothing? Not gonna help at all, huh? Well, the only thing I can think of, and I have nothing. Yeah, I got nothing. I've been drinking too much alcohol. A light bulb don't make a good hammer. That's a fact. We'll just end it there. Like and subscribe, or you'll wake up and find that I put a centipede on your testicles. It's a lot of testicle talk, isn't it?